everyone, and welcome to episode 6 of FM20 Deja Vu with me, the United City FM. This is our series where we're going through the default tactics the game has to provide for us and put them into our Rangers side against Celtic. One a week for 10 weeks to see what difference it has on the game that we play. So far in this series, we've done Park the Bus and Catenaccio, and we've done the direct counter-attack. We've done control possession, and we've done gegenpress. And today, it's the Tiki Taka style of play. So we'll click into the Tiki Taka style of play and see what it does to this side. In this series, whether it's the right formation or it's not for the tactic, we're not changing the formation just to see what the tactic does and what impact it has. So we remain in our 4-2-3-1, and the players never change either, just again, so it gives us a baseline to work from. And so what does the Tiki Taka style have to say for itself? Well, in terms of a definition, it says Tiki Taka places the emphasis on short passing, extreme pressing and movement, waiting for space to open up as opponents lose focus. An extreme variant on the control possession style. So there's a lot of pressing in it, and there's a lot for the players to do in terms of movement, but then waiting for space to open up is a key one, and for the opponent to lose focus. So we keep the ball, we keep it moving, we drift them all over the place, and the moment they're going, well, what can we do about it? Then we do something with the ball, potentially. Something to look out for in terms of the game and what we're doing. Short passing, so we shouldn't be going over the top. Even the central defenders, I hope, won't be going over the top, but there are lots of things that impact some of these decisions, and decisions in terms of, if we go and have a look at Katic, for example, his decision making is only a 9 out of 20. So when he's got the ball, even though he's been given an instruction, i.e. keep it short and go into the tiki-taka, will he follow that through, or will his poor decision-making process mean that he'll just lump it over the top anyway? We'll look out for that as well. Decision-making process is key to this kind of way of play. So in terms of everything else within the tiki-taka style, it's a positive setup. So when we've got the ball, even though we're trying to keep it and move it quite quickly in and around smaller passing sections, we are still trying to move it forward and be positive with our defensive approach as well as our offensive approach. We'll look at how that impacts the other instructions, but you'd imagine that with the pressing game, we're always going to be looking on the front foot when we've lost the ball to go and get it back, when we've got the ball to move forward, even in the tiki-taka style. So we've got a positive outlook. Fairly narrow in attacking width, so that keeps us compact to be able to make those short, sharp passes, playing out of defence and working through the team, not going over the top. Much shorter passing style, so there should not be any long balls anywhere, and if there are, it's about players making wrong choices. Much lower tempo as well. You'd imagine that when we're trying to press the ball, we're trying to put all of our emphasis in the work of trying to press the ball, and when we've got it, we immediately retract into ourselves and say, well, we're still trying to move the ball forward, but it's going to be quite short, sharp, and it's going to be very considered about where we're going next with the ball. So watch out for that. Can we keep the ball away from this Celtic team? And there's no time wasting at all. We're not looking to gain an advantage through that at all. And we're working the ball into the box. We're not having pot shots. We're trying to be controlled about moving it enough into a very good shooting position. So let's watch out for that. Dribble less, so it's less about player movement and more about ball movement. Nothing in the creative freedom front. In transition, we're counter-pressing, so always pushing up when we lose the ball to see if we can get it back. We'll see about the intensity of the press in a second. And when we've got the ball, we're holding the shape. So we're not all piling forward. We're keeping shape, we're keeping discipline, and we're trying to work the ball in and around through our side up to the main guy up top. Again, distribute to the centre-backs and distribute quickly. So what have we got out of possession? And here's the extremely urgent pressing intensity that we were thinking about. Prevent the goalkeeper short distribution. So whoever the striker is, Morelos on this occasion, is going to be asked to go and press the goalkeeper a lot when he's in possession of the football. Very, very high line of engagement, both in terms of defensive and offensive. That leaves us open at the back to all sorts of balls over the top potentially. Is that how Celtic are going to cause us problems today? We'll have to look out for what they do as well in terms of how they respond to what we're offering them. And the defensive width is standard, so we've got a very narrow one for the offensive, but when we're back in defensive, it's stretched out just a little bit to cover the space a little bit. So that's the instructions for the Tiki Taka. As I say, we don't change the personnel or the formation, so it's just about tactics. We've discovered that defensively we can do fairly well at times in some of the more defensive setups against Celtic. We've done pretty well with some of them. And also in the offensive, when we've got the ball and got the momentum, we've looked pretty good. And there are other occasions where set pieces do us in a lot. And also player mistakes do us in a lot, and we have been beaten more often than not by Celtic. It is the way the game goes more often than not. But I think we're giving a reasonable account of ourselves most of the time. There's only maybe one in there that we just never look like getting anything from it. But yeah, there you go. That's the intro to this particular setup. So I hope you're enjoying the series. So things to look out for: the short passing, the pressing game, the maintaining the structure of our side when we've got the ball, so not all piling forward, and the decision making of our players. Are they following the actual pattern that we're setting out for them, or are they making their own decisions because their decision making isn't particularly good, and on the fly they're just doing whatever they feel like? Those are the things that I want you to look out for. Let me know afterwards in the comments what you think. This is what this series is all about. What do you notice? What do you like about the Tiki Taka? Do you use the Tiki Taka? If you do, how does it work for you? Do you change any of these based instructions and see a difference in that? Let me know all of your thoughts in the comments below about what we're doing today, but also about what you do in your own save, and also about what Celtic do to counter-attack. What we're putting in front of them. Are they going over the top a lot because we're leaving that space? Things to look out for. So the team is the same as it always is. It's McGregor in goal, Tavernier at right back, Barisic at left back, Katic and Golson in central defence, Jack, Davis and Arfield in central midfield, Hadji on the right, Ojo on the left, Morelos up top, with a bench of Edmundson, Flanagan, Kamara, Aribo, Stewart, Kent and Defoe. So let's get into today's game using the Tiki Taka and see what happens. So as is always the case, we don't do team talks, we don't give player instructions, we just let the tactic work. We're on comprehensive highlights just so we can get more of the game to watch and see a bigger picture of what's going on. And that's the basic setup that we use every week. So we'll see how we get on. In the second half, I'll be asking a few viewer questions as well. I always ask for questions in this series to answer. So if you've got a question about Football Manager, about life, about anything, chuck it my way and I'll see if I can answer it for you in future episodes. But I've got a few questions coming up in the second half of this game. In the first half, we're going to be paying a lot of attention as to what we're actually doing as a team. And how our focus is working in terms of following the player instructions of high pressing, reasonably short passing, but positive form all the way through the game in terms of trying to win it back and then trying to move it forward. And there was a good opportunity in that first little section of play, wasn't there, down that left-hand side, where it says that we're doing a reasonably short passing game. It doesn't mean that we can't go slightly longer here and there. It just means that we shouldn't be booting it over the top and hoping. It should be controlled in trying to get it to the players. What's happened to Ojo? Does it mean that we're going to have to make a substitution, or is he going to recover? No, he's recovering quite nicely. You can see his conditioning going back up again, so he should be okay at least through till half time. Normally I don't change the players either in this series because I want to just keep a base level as much as possible. Obviously if we get an injury we'd have to. And again we come down the right hand side this time with Tavernier into Hadji, gets a chance to cut into the box, and there's a great opportunity for Morelos. And some really good movement. Again, we didn't whip the ball in. We tried to work it into the box. That was one of the key instructions in our Tiki Taka style. We don't just, even down the sides, we're not going long. We are trying to work it into the box and trying to work it into a really good, positive goal-scoring situation. And on that occasion, it worked out for us. Morelos on the end of the ball puts the ball into the back of the net very comfortably, and we go 1-0 up after 15 minutes of the game. Very positive. What are Celtic going to do about it? That's the other thing that we talk about a lot as the game progresses. And one thing that I really love to see in the comments below is when you analyse what they do in counter-attacking what we do. It helps us get a bigger, better picture of how this game works and what sort of things as a manager we should be looking at, how we go about trying to change what the opposition are presenting to us. Some very nice defensive work there, and then because we were in a little bit of difficulty, a few players around us, we did boot it clear. Watch that though. How many times are we going to do that from our central defenders? Can they follow this style of play? Or if we were doing a Tiki Taka in our own games, would we be able to only properly do it when we have ball playing central defenders that have got good decision making and good composure at the back to be able to play through the pitch? Is that something to think about in your own versions of the game? Let me know again. If you play this style of game, if you play the Tiki Taka, what sort of things are you looking for in your players up through the team? That was a decent effort from Ojo on his right foot from the edge of the box. Again, he didn't quite work it into the box, but you've got to give him a little bit of freedom here and there. But we're dominating the game quite well at the moment. Morelos nearly loses out then, but doesn't. Regains the ball comfortably. And Tavernier again has a challenge on him, but rides it and gets an opportunity to move it into central midfield. And we are working the ball through. There you go. Nice, short, sharp passes. Fairly accurate. And we get a chance down the left-hand side to get it into that box. Didn't quite make it on that occasion, but it goes out for a corner kick. Set pieces have done us in our defensive area, but we've occasionally got one ourselves. So they're always useful to work on your set pieces. That's another question for you. Do you actually make a point of doing your set pieces? Do you set them out properly and put particular players in particular spots, or do you not bother so much in terms of free kicks, corner kicks, throw-ins, all that stuff? Do you work on that, or do you just leave it at the default setting? Let me know in the comments below. I always try and work something into my own side's positive things in terms of there's no point in going long into the penalty box for a corner kick if you've got nobody there that can head the ball, for example. So, you've got to work these things out. So do you do that? Do you pay as much attention to that? What bits of the games do you and don't you do? Do you do training? Do you do, what parts of the games do you like to do? I've just gone this weekend through a summer transfer window in my Rolling in the Isles series, and I love the summer transfer windows. I love reimagining the side a little bit and figuring out who to move out and who to move in and solving some of those issues. So I really enjoy that aspect. Other people don't enjoy spending the money at all. They go out and they try and find youth prospects, and I would do that too a little bit if I could, but it's not always my focus. But what aspects of the game do you love? So far in this particular match, we are doing pretty well. Celtic are having a few chances, absolutely. But again, we're into the penalty box. Some good work by Arfield in the centre of midfield there to work it out wide to Ojo down, was it Hadji down the left-hand side? I can't remember who it was. Ojo, I think. And again with the corner kick, but we don't get past the first man, and that's sometimes frustrating, isn't it? Even in real football, where the corner kick comes in and you don't even beat the first defender. That's just so annoying. Again, we got it worked into the box, but Celtic cover themselves very well. A good opportunity from Berisic. Ooh, narrowly over the top. But the pressing game works, I think, with this Rangers side a little bit. We're not giving Celtic too much time on the ball before we're pushing them. You can see the press then from our central midfield was good, and it's forced Celtic all the way back. Does that mean they're going to go long? And Morelos pushing the goalkeeper, stopping that distribution. So he's doing the job that we've asked for him. And that means that they can go long, and occasionally when they go long into midfield, then they're going to struggle to win the ball. We're going to win it back. But there's the first real chance, I think, I'm not sure I've seen it too often, of them going over the top. We've got a very high line of engagement on the defence, and there's a lot of space behind us for that ball over the top. Ooh, scrappy goal again for us, and it's always the way. The original shot comes in, and we don't quite deal with it in the way that we could do, and they're thinking quicker than we are, and they're always first to those second balls. The shot comes in, the goalkeeper parries it out, and there's a Celtic player in the 6-yard box that reacts quickly and pokes the ball home instead of us being able to clear our lines. And it's always the way on those set pieces, unfortunately. It's been a real problem in this series. It's something that this Rangers side need to work on, absolutely. hopefully that won't allow our heads to drop too much. Hopefully we can find a way to continue doing what we were doing, which is working to a point. I mean, we've had some success already just through this style of play, keeping the ball, slowing it down, shorter passes, direct specific passes to people in space. And then occasionally they make those sorts of decisions, and it goes well for us on that occasion where we played it up to the striker who was able to cushion it off to his side. And then eventually the central midfielder gets a shot at goal, but it wasn't quite good enough, was it really? It goes wide. We cleared our lines well. Arfield, is he going to hold the ball up? He is. And used the on-running Hadji to work the space down that right-hand side. Cross comes in on that occasion. He didn't have a simple ball in. There was nobody coming close to him in the box to pass into, so he had to go long. And we almost paid for it by losing the ball, but not quite. Eventually we gain it down that left-hand side and it goes out for a throw-in. But you can see that whilst there is a chance that we will always try and follow the instructions and go short and simple, where it's not open to us and occasionally you can see a runner in the box, of course you can always do something slightly different to that and try and work the ball in a different way, because that's football. You can't do it just by the numbers. You have to have a certain level of freedom, but you can compress that a little bit in this sort of side, just to again with the corner kicks. They're so frustrating in this series. It's always on the set pieces that we really struggle, and it seems like it's always on that second ball. Again, corner comes in, we clear it half, it comes off the woodwork, and again it's a Celtic player that's in the right spot at the right time, reacting quickest to get a simple header on the ball, and they take a 2-1 lead from just unfortunate scrappy goals a lot of the time. They're not opening us up through their own clever play. They're getting set pieces, and it hurts us an awful lot. Ojo down the left-hand side, can we counter that quickly? We had a reasonable chance from Morelos at the near post, but he couldn't quite get it out from the feet of the defenders, and the defenders block it. And we've got a few minutes till the end of the first half. Can we hold on till the end of the first half and at least go in with only a 1-0 deficit? I hope so, but they are pushing at us now, aren't they? So what have you noticed about Celtic? How have they countered what we're doing? Or have they countered it? I'm not sure they have so much. I mean, they've had more of the attempts at goal, definitely, but we've had far more of the possession than they have. What they've done is they've worked for a couple of set pieces and they've made it count from those second opportunities in and around a scrappy penalty box. That's what it feels like to me anyway. What else have you noticed about Celtic? What have you noticed about how we're doing? I think you've seen Morelos closing down the goalkeeper. You've seen lots of simple passing, quite specific passing in the centre of midfield. You've seen that initial attempt from us in our goal, where instead of just crossing it from long, we worked it into the box for Morelos. So there's lots of the Tiki Taka that we've seen there. We're not going to give a team talk. We never do. Let's just check on Ojo. He's capable enough of moving on, I would say, in this game, so we're just going straight back in. We don't want to change anything, because that's not what this series is about. Obviously, in a real game scenario, if you're in the Tiki Taka and you're 2-1 down, maybe you'd have to change. Maybe you'd need to put a second player up front and go long, or all sorts of different decisions you could make. Once we went 1-0 up, if we were in the Tiki Taka, would you have changed it at that point and gone more defensive? We can't do that in this series, but in your games, would you do that? How do you work the scenario of going up and down in a game in terms of what you do to change things? Another corner kick came in from Celtic, and this time we actually dealt with it, and it finds its way to Hadji, but he loses out to Forrest down that far side. He's outpowered, really, just in terms of a small nudge with the shoulder, I think, to get him off the ball. And it's Celtic again with a decent cross into the far post, but nobody was on running to it. But they still maintain possession until that point, where again we get a good clearance, and it's Hadji picks up the loose ball, and simply we slow it back down again, back into our simple passing. Can we keep the ball and move the ball enough for the Celtic players to get out of shape, and then use that to our advantage? And that's what we did. We drew one of them out. It had some space for Ojo to attack, and he does so really well. Runs all the way into the box. Now again, we're not supposed to be dribbling too much with the ball and running too much with it, but when the space opens up to you, we've got to allow them to do it. So that's another thing that I would say again, is that decision-making process is up to the players still. So as the game continues to progress, we're at 50 minutes, just coming up to. I'm going to answer a couple of questions. Whilst I'm doing it, I'm not going to be able to pay as much attention to the game. Multitasking is never my forte particularly. So keep an eye on what's happening and tell me in the comments below, what do you notice about the next sort of 20 minutes of the game and how we progress. So what questions have I got today? Well, I've got a couple more from Jay Plays, and the first one from him is, what kind of manager would I actually be if I became a football manager? Well, a couple of things I would say is that, one, I really don't like confrontation as a person. I'm quite placid, I'm quite chilled out, I don't really do confrontation. So throwing the hairdryer treatment of Alex Ferguson and stuff isn't my style at all, so I'd be quite considered, I think. I'd try and quite understand what players I have and what tactical situations would work for them. And then quite an encouraging manager, I think, because I just don't do confrontation. I would never get particularly cross just for the sake of it, but if you make me cross, then you'd probably know about it. Another from him is, so what style of play can the fans expect from you? Well, what I would say is I love attacking football, but we went down to Celtic. What happened on that goal? I didn't see it. You tell me in the comments below, what did you notice about how Celtic made that goal? I do love attacking play, but only from the point where your defensive setup is strong. So when I was coaching wheelchair basketball in disability sport a while ago now, I'd spent a whole season working on our defensive structure and how we then move into the offensive from the defensive, and put so much more emphasis on that, and then gave them the freedom to think on their own, for their own selves when they're in the attacking setup, but gave them structure defensively, and it seemed to work for us. I think I'd probably do something similar. You set yourself defensively, very structured, very set up, knowing your roles, and then at some point in the transition between that and to attacking, you get a little bit more freedom just to think on your feet a little bit. So that's the kind of style I would think. Quite structured, but then a little bit of freedom moving forward. And his last question for today, Jay Plays, says, what do I like about Football Manager? It gives me that chance. It gives me an opportunity I've never been able to have to find myself in the football world, to escape into a world of figuring out tactics, figuring out players and solutions to problems and formations and structures of play and all sorts of interesting things, and feeling a part of something that I create. You know, I bring a squad of players together, I try and get them to play in an image that I want them to play. Can I achieve that, and how successful is it? And you can lose yourself in this world. That's what I love about Football Manager. It's an escapism for me, absolutely, but an escapism into a world that I would have dearly loved to have been part of. So what else have we got? Agent 25, couple of slightly more random questions from him in terms of away from Football Manager. Which two characters or celebrities would you like to see fight? That's an interesting question. I've got a couple of answers. Firstly, in terms of characters, I'm a Star Wars fan, and that feeds into his next question. I'd love to have seen Yoda versus Vader. I mean, Vader from Rogue One, the proper scything down people Vader versus a top quality Yoda, and see how those two combated each other. So that would be my character fight, as it were. In terms of celebrities, well, the only thought I had, to be honest, was if they're not going to be able to finish the Premier League season this year, and maybe they are, maybe they're not, what about putting all 20 of those in a wrestling ring and having a 20-man battle, over-the-top battle royal, and seeing what happened with that? If you did that, who'd win? That's my question to you in the comments below. If you put all 20 Premier League managers in a ring for an over-the-top battle royal, who would be the last man standing and why? Don't just pick your favourite manager because you like him. Who do you think's going to win? My money would be on Sean Dyche. I reckon he could have the lot of them. We'll see. But who do you think? Let me know in the comments below. 20-man over-the-top battle royal, Premier League managers, who's going to win? So those would be my two fights. Thanks for the questions, guys. I hope you appreciate the answers. If you've got a question about anything, chuck it my way in the comments below of this video and let me know so I can answer those in future episodes. Always interesting to hear what you want me to talk about. So the match is reaching its peak. We're at 85, 86 minutes. We haven't managed to get a goal back ourselves. They've taken their a lead by 2 goals, by 3 goals to 1, should I say. So what happened in that 25-minute period where I was answering questions or whatever it was, for us to lose this match and not regain ourselves? It happens a lot. Celtic figure us out, and then their quality shines through and they beat us. It does happen a fair amount. We'd obviously, in normal circumstances, be changing our styles of play a little bit through the game just to try and counter that, but we're not able to do that in this series. So how did it happen today? What would you have spotted from our own way of play, but also Celtic's way of play, as to how the game sort of got to this point? Do you like the Tiki Taka? My preferred one, it comes in a couple of weeks' time, where we do the vertical Tiki Taka. I really like that. I'll talk about that a bit more when we come to it, but that's one of my preferred styles of play, the vertical Tiki Taka. This one, not quite so much, but I do appreciate it in terms of its style of play. And I think for a fair amount of the game, we did okay today. I'm not sure our ratings would say so. I mean, our goalkeeper had a good one, which is unheard of in Football Manager for the goalkeeper to get a good rating, isn't it? I had a goalkeeper of the year at my Lazio save. He actually got voted goalkeeper of the year in world football, and still had like a 6 point something average rating, even though he'd had so many clean sheets and hardly conceded a goal. It's mad. So that's something that SI need to change, isn't it, really? But we had a good goalkeeper today, and Morales got his goal, and that boosted his rating. Other than that, it was a bit average, wasn't it, really? So what else did you notice? Did the Tiki Taka work for us? Did it not work for us? It obviously didn't in terms of result. What did you like about it? What didn't you? What would you change about it if you were changing any of the instructions in the Tiki Taka style to work better for how you would prefer it to work? Let me know all of that in the comments. Always interested to hear your thought processes. So if we come back out of here and go back into our tactics, we'll just check out for next week. What have we got? We've got the fluid counter-attack next week. So we've got that next week, followed by vertical Tiki Taka, followed by route one, and then wing play. That's the last few episodes of this series. So yeah, come back next week and we'll look at the fluid counter-attack. How is it going to differ for the direct counter-attack? Does it differ? Do the players have enough quality to make that work? But that's the Tiki Taka. I think there's a lot of positives in it. I think we did quite well with it for a bit of the game, but then maybe you need it as one of these three tactics just so you can move it in and out when the opposition figure us out and change the game a bit. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Always interested to hear your thoughts about this and anything else. If you've got a question for me, chuck it my way. Thanks very much for joining me today. Always appreciate your company on these. These are really fun for me to do. I really enjoy looking at these different styles. I hope you do too. Thanks for joining me. Join me next week for the fluid counter-attacking style. Till next week though, take care of yourselves. I'll see you very soon. Bye for now.